Beekeepers, do you have the stomach for sustainable beekeeping? It's not easy. I haven't bought any queens since 2017, and I've been able to double every year since then because the queens I bought, the ones I bought from Foliage Russian bees, were no good, poor quality. So the queens that I've been breeding ever since then have been better quality. But this year, the weather hasn't cooperated. Here it is, April 18th. And I don't know if you can see this. These are daffodils. Normally this is what they would look like at the end of March. So I'm about 3 to 4 weeks behind on the climate here in Michigan. And my colonies have reflected that by not growing really fast. They've limited their growth because they know there's nothing out there for them to collect, no nectar. Or not much. There's a little bit in the trees, but there's no flowers. There's no dandelions. Normally we have dandelions in April, but there's no dandelions. There's no flowers anywhere on the ground. And what I say, if you have this, do you have the stomach for beekeeping? I started winter with 154 colonies, and that was one mistake I made. End of December or January. But anyway, the toxic chemicals that crop farmers use, it's hard on bees, it's in their hive, it's in the wax, it's in the pollen, it's in the honey. They don't live very long because of those toxic chemicals. So come the end of February, early March, my bees are struggling to stay alive. And I'll show you what I normally do. Normally, the year right now is 2022. Normally, my 2020 queens would be strictly used for breeding. I'd make a bunch of mating nukes with my 2020 colonies. I'd break them down. And then my 2021 queens would be for honey, and I might take one nuke off of them, but I wouldn't break them down completely and make a bunch of mating nukes. But right now we have a cold spring, so I have small colonies going into summer. I know they're not gonna be as large as they normally would be. So you do not split late spring, and then you need to replace your 2020 queens. If I don't replace these 2020 queens, I'm not gonna have as many bees next year as I have now, and my goal is to keep getting larger every year. So it's really difficult to maintain the colonies you have and not split them and have a chance of them not making it through winter because they're too small to collect the honey. So, but I still need to replace the 2020 queens, and I'm gonna have to do limited mating nukes. And every time I get a new queen for 2022, I'm gonna take that queen, I'm gonna put it in my larger colonies, my 2020 colonies, so that colony can maintain its size coming out of summer going into winter. I'm trying to maintain what I have. I don't want to lose the number of colonies I have now. I currently have 114 or so. You can see, I'll go through here real quick. This is February, getting into March. And then my window colonies, if you watch my videos, I have small colonies and windows. I put them in going into fall, into summer. And those were the ones that needed to help first. So I took and I split my large colonies in half, and I took those queens out. And it warmed up at the beginning of March that I was able to do this. And I thought, okay, we're going to have a normal spring. But then it cooled off in mid-March. So I had placed SERP in my colonies in the middle of March, and they had to take it out because it was too cold. They weren't taking it. Here we are, April. See, I'm down to 114 colonies. I'm going to show you a few things here. Never expected to have colonies in my bee room in April. So here it is, April 18th, and I've got colonies in here. A lot of these colonies would be too risky to leave out. We had temperatures in the 20s, and a lot of them have frames of brood that I put in from my larger colonies that are outside. And I didn't want to risk them not having enough bees and having that brood get chilled. But if you've seen my videos, In February, I took my window colonies out of the window because it was getting too warm in here. There's too many bees. I wanted to cool off this room, but I didn't want to risk losing the window colonies. So I put them down in my basement, and I put in this AP23 from the dot, hoping that they would start doing brood, but not a single colony started brood. This is the first winter that I didn't buy global winter patties from Better Bee. I've always used global winter patties from Better Bee, and I've always had my bees start. A year ago, or over a year ago, the winter of 2020 and 2021, I started my bees with some reserve global patties that I had, and ordered more from Better Bee. And 2 weeks went by and I didn't see it, and I called Better Bee, and they told me they wouldn't have it for another 2 weeks, and I told them that was too late. I needed it now. So I tried this Ultra Bee from Man Lake. And my colonies started with that global winter patties from Better Bee. But when that ran out, they wouldn't continue doing brood with this Man Lake's Ultra Bee. So I didn't want to buy any more of this, and I thought, well, okay, maybe the dot stuff, it's AP23, would be better. So I bought this thinking, okay, this will make my bees start in February, end of January, early February, but they didn't. None of my bees started. So they'd have to wait until it warmed up for them to have the incentive to want to start. And a lot of them started in March when it warmed up, but then it cooled off and they stopped. And I'm going to show you a few more things. This is my cellar. It's underneath my garage floor, and this is my mechanical room. The wax moths have never been able to penetrate this room, and I've got over 60 deeps in here. I got 4 stacks, well, the deeps and mediums. But anyway, all this stuff here has frames of used foundation cells that wax moths would get in and make a big mess. So every spring it's a race to have your colonies get big enough to put this stuff on your colonies so they can keep the wax moths under control. And you don't want, if all these frames got wax moths in it, it would be a big loss. So I've got them down here more than I normally would have them to keep the wax moths off them. I just wanted to show you, this right here is a plywood deep. I had some plywood sitting around. And of course plywood doesn't hold screws very well, so I made up these corner brackets. And of those 40 colonies I've lost, 30 of those would probably be just from dead queens. Queens died, and probably 10 colonies actually flew away. Or they just died in the hive. Sometimes you really don't know. If you see a pile of bees in the bottom of a deep, is it the colony that was there? Well, anyway, I have these. You could use these queen excluders. You put one on top and down below, and your colony can't leave. But then if you have a bunch of pollen substitute in there, you got the issue of trying to squish this down to get this sealed up, and it can be a hassle. So I didn't do it. And because of that, I lost some colonies. They flew away. So, and then the other thing is, sometimes when you have a colony of scouting, you catch that colony, and you have several of scoutings at the same time. Like I put a video on a few days ago about having 3 separate queens I found on my deck, and I didn't know which colony they came from exactly. You really don't know. I don't mark my queens with the yearly colors. I didn't want the chemicals on them. So you don't know, is it an old queen or is it a new queen? So that's the issue too. So anyway, sustainable beekeeping is not easy because I don't buy queens. I have to rely on breeding my own queens every year if I want to continue doing this. And I use acetic acid to kill varroa mites, and the issues I'm having has nothing to do with varroa mites. It's the toxic chemicals from crop farmers in my area. And everybody's environment is different. You can't say that your environment is better than the next person's or worse than the next person's. It's really difficult to say But if your bees are dying every year constantly, it's because you probably live in a toxic environment, and our government won't do anything about it. Our government is corrupt, okay? Thank you.